all is mind, but the mind is not the all. Peace to you and you and you and all my fellow expressions of consciousness. The 2018 movie Marvel's Black Panther has a real truth to it that may have been overlooked by those not perceiving the deeper meaning, which is fine, of course. But as the deeper meaning was revealed to me, I feel I should share, for it may help people understand that Wakanda represents ego. This is not said in a negative light or a positive light. Ego is neutral. It's only a thought, a so-called afterthought, that then puts a label: ego is bad, ego is good. Ego is just a thought. But ego, which is basically also called mind, is so persistent that pure consciousness, that ego is formed in, when perceiving through this form of itself, now has limited its perception and believes it is a separate entity, separate from its essential nature of the pure vast consciousness that all is. There can only be consciousness. For there to be something other than consciousness, one would have to be conscious of that. There is only consciousness, that which we call consciousness. For consciousness has no actual quality. We name it, poetically speaking, for we know we can never have an objective label on that subjective essence of the all. So when perceiving through the ego's belief of I am a doer, I am separate, yet this ego knows for it to be separate it must be mortal. It has a lifespan, it has a time that it is subject to. It lives in a constant state of worry, anxieties, fear, frustrations. It cannot understand life, for it is not around long enough to remember that it is also the pure, imperturbable God consciousness. So Wakanda represents ego. What did they do in Wakanda? In their secret Wakanda society, they lived in a state of fear. Yes, they were living in fear. They did not want to reveal themselves to the outside world because they viewed themselves as separate, just as ego always views itself as separate from the all. Even if we talk from the level of personhood, there is one world. Where is the separation when it's one world? Even with that, you can see there's an illusion of separation because there's one earth. Yet the many egos within this one earth are not sitting with that knowing, that innate knowing, that they know but throw away, like it's not important, that there is only one earth, thus all are earthlings in different forms, of course. So The Wakandans lived in a state of fear. They did not want to open up their world, their society, for fear of losing something. The ego always feels it will lose something. The mind feels it will lose something if it relaxes and opens up. For when mind relaxes, what does it relax within? It relaxes within the only substance that there is, consciousness. Then it remembers that it is just a form of the one consciousness that there is. Just as a earthling is a person formed from the one world that we call Earth. Living in a state of ego, which is fear, frustration, worry, anxiety, creates a resistance. Constantly worrying, back and forth, shaking, worrying. This resistance creates an energy that becomes so dense that one feels the only way to stop this energy is to match it and become even more resistant, even more frustrated, even more angry. And what happens? Killmonger is formed. The cousin of King T'Challa, the Black Panther. So the Wakandans, unbeknownst to them, created Killmonger that came to kill the Black Panther. For they were living in a state of fear, which of course started from King T'Challa's father, who lived in a state of fear for not caring for the young future Killmonger. This ego created a resistance that came back and bit the Wakandans in their Panther, who got overthrown, killed. And quite easily too, because ego creates so much, as I said, resistance, that one feels they must be even more resistant and more powerful. That extra power, the extra muscle, extra venom, extra ferociousness you saw in Killmonger was that ego that Wakandans created. So of course it can knock it out. Of course it can end it. Of course it can overthrow. Because it was grown from the resistance that grew and grew and grew. When Black Panther T'Challa came back, after settling the score with Killmonger, he had a more relaxed understanding. He had a more truthful knowing after telling the ancestors in the so-called astral realm, in the dream, that they made a mistake. The mistake was living in a state of fear, ego. So what did T'Challa do at the end of the movie? He told the world, we're going to share with you now. We're going to open up. We're going to relax, essentially. As you relax, a huge weight gets lifted off of your shoulders. And know, when you relax into the being that you are, around other beings that don't understand that they are the pure consciousness too, of course there's still going to be ups and downs. It's not going to be a smooth sailing ride. But it is the beginning of a peaceful world. The world where we don't believe we are separate individuals from one another. The world where we know, we don't overlook the truth that is right here in our faces. That there is only now, and there is only one. One earth, one universe, one consciousness, anyhow you wish to look at it. Anything other than those three is simply using imagination, faith, belief. Yet all faiths and beliefs exist where? Within the same single consciousness. This is why, my dear fellow expressions, that the message I keep helping you see, that all expressions of consciousness who have perceived this truth are helping you see. No matter where you go with thought, it always comes back to one simple truth. Every experience, every thought, every emotion, every feeling, every so-called physical object is perceived, is known by mind, that which we call mind. Yet mind itself is known too, because mind is just a thought. Something is aware of thought, and that something cannot be perceived itself. That is what we call pure awareness or pure consciousness or just God or source. All reality must exist within reality. Two realities cannot mix. There is only one reality with different happenings within it. When we relax into this knowing, then we will have world peace. Live in a state of fear, resistance, this is mine, I'll show you, creates conflict, creates unease. The ease is in the remembering, the knowing, the living as the oneness that we all are. Can we do that now? Can we stop imagining this separation? What separation? That's a thought. A thought says, you are not my brother, you are not my sister. I'm not talking about biologically, that's another story. Of course, some forms emerge out of other forms that we call babies. But we all live on the same planet. We all live in the same universe. So we're different forms of the same thing. But ultimately, we are just no thing. For we are just pure consciousness, essentially. For that awareness that all experience is known to is not a thing itself. You cannot see. If you are to be sincere with yourself, you cannot see the awareness with which you are using to be aware of this video. You just know, I am aware watching the video. For if you could see your awareness, of course that means your awareness wouldn't be awareness, it would be a thought, an object perceived in mind. Just one by one, if we can all do as the Black Panther did and overcome ego, we will then become unified in that which has never been undivided, has just seemingly been undivided when perceiving through ego mind. Then we can be happy and know it and clap our hands. We are all the same, essentially. If you like the video, please press like, comment, share, subscribe, and have a wonderful day or evening. Peace to you, my fellow expressions.